Yes, you read that title right. Over the many years I've been a Pokemon fan, I've heard the opinion that Chikorita is not only the worst Johto starter, but the worst starter in all of Pokemon. For a long while, I was pretty convinced of that too, but this challenge really surprised me, and I think all of you out there are in for a surprise too. Before we start, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that has watched all of the prior videos and to those of you that have subscribed. It really means everything to me, and I'm so happy with how the channel has been thriving lately. I'd also like you new viewers out there to know that I'm really trying hard to create quality content on a weekly basis, so a quick click on the subscribe button means that you'll get to see a new video like this every week. Anyways, let's get on with the challenge. Today we seek to answer, can you beat Pokemon SoulSilver with only a Chikorita? Let's quickly cover the rules so we can begin. Rule number 1. No glitches, hacks, or cheats. I do, however, use speed up, otherwise these videos would take far longer to produce and I'd rather produce them quickly. Rule number 2. I can only use one Pokemon in battle. However, because I am not cheating, I do need to use HM Pokemon for travel purposes only. And lastly, rule number 3. No items in battle. This doesn't include held items, as I use Everstones during some runs, and so other held items are also allowed if necessary. With all of that out of the way, let's begin. So, first off, I want to talk about the goal of this video. I ran a quick poll in my community Discord and on YouTube to determine what beating SoulSilver really means. The answer came back as follows. Beating Lance counts as a win for the challenge, but if possible, Red needs to be attempted. I plan on pushing Chikorita to the absolute limit during this challenge because I want to prove beyond all doubt that Chikorita is just as good of a starter as any. The first step on our road to glory is getting the right nature on our Chikorita, and after a fair bit of research, I decided that the Jolly nature is absolutely required if we want to have the best odds of seeing the absolute limit of what Chikorita can do. With our Jolly nature Chikorita acquired, we run a quick errand and run into Silver on our way back. Silver leads with Cyndaquil, which we trade tackles with until it faints. Now that we have access to Pokeballs, we begin our grinding session. This usually results in our Pokemon being overleveled for a tiny bit, but it is an absolute necessity to ensure that our EVs are cemented for the rest of the run. For this challenge, we've got all we need right here on Route 29. We settle in for a long grind and eventually knock out 252 Sentret for attack EVs, and collectively 252 of both Pidgey and Rattata for speed EVs. With our EVs set for the rest of the run, we're ready to take on our first gym leader, Falkner. Falkner leads with a Pidgey, which we one-shot with Tackle. Falkner's last Pokemon is his Pidgeotto, which we hit with Tackle for half health while it hits us with Gust. On the next turn, we hit Pidgeotto with another Tackle, but fail to knock it out while it uses Roost. We then hit Pidgeotto with another Tackle while it hits us with Gust, and on the following turn, we take it down with one more Tackle. With our first gym badge earned, we head over to Azalea Town, but we've got to take care of Proton and the Slowpoke well first. Proton leads with his Zubat, which we hit with Tackle for a one-shot. Proton's last Pokemon is his Coughing, which we also hit with Tackle for about half health, while Coughing misses Poison Gas. The turn after, we hit another Tackle but fail to knock it out, while Coughing uses Smokescreen. We then land one more Tackle to take down Coughing, beating Proton for the first time. With the Slowpoke well situation handled, we're ready to take on Bugsy. Bugsy leads with Scyther, which we hit with Tackle for minimal damage while it uses Leer. We use another Tackle on the next turn, proccing Scyther to eat a Citrus Berry and then use Focus Energy. Scyther then uses a quick attack and we answer with a Tackle. The turn after, one more Tackle takes down the Scyther. Bugsy then sends out his Kakuna, which we tackle for half health while it uses Poison Sting. The turn after, we take it down with another Tackle. Metapod is Bugsy's last Pokemon, which we tackle for half health while it uses Tackle back. On the following turn, we land one more Tackle to defeat Bugsy. On our way out of Azalea Town, Silver stops us and challenges us to a battle. Silver leads with Ghastly, which we're able to hit with a Razor Leaf for a very surprising one-shot. Silver then sends out Zubat, which we're also able to hit with Razor Leaf for about half health while it uses Supersonic to confuse us. We manage to get through the confusion though to land Razor Leaf, knocking out Zubat. Silver's last Pokemon is his Quilava, which we're able to hit with Tackle through confusion while it hits us with Ember. The confusion fades and we hit Razor Leaf for a bit more damage while Quilava uses Leer. One more Razor Leaf on the following turn takes down Quilava, winning us the battle. Our next gym is Whitney, who has been long touted as a huge wall for many challenge runs. Whitney leads with Clefairy, which we hit with Razor Leaf for a one-shot. Whitney then sends out her ace, Miltank, which we also hit with Razor Leaf for a very surprising crit one-shot, making Whitney a cakewalk. It is at this time that we take a very long break from Pokemon battles. For you guys, this will be quick, but this was a huge slog. What we're doing here is playing Voltorb Flip. If you're like me, you don't often play the Game Corner games because they're pretty grindy for not a lot of return most of the time. However, it is absolutely imperative that we grind at least 8,000 coins while we're here in the Goldenrod Game Corner, and that is because we do not have the option to buy coins with regular money like we can in our Pokemon Platinum runs. We need 8,000 coins for two items: the TM for Swords Dance, which we can get here in Goldenrod, and the TM for Double Team, which we cannot get until we reach Celadon in the Kanto region. Both of these TMs are absolutely necessary if we want to push Chikorita to its utmost limit. Fortunately for us, we do manage to get the coins needed in just a few hours, which we then exchange half of for Swords Dance. After leaving the Goldenrod Game Corner, our next stop is the Burn Tower for another rival battle with Silver. Silver again leads with his Ghastly, which we hit with Razor Leaf for a one-shot. However, we also learned Body Slam during this moment, something absolutely crucial for the success of the run. Next up is Zubat, which we one-shot with Body Slam. Following Zubat is Quilava, who we hit with Body Slam and proc Paralysis on before getting hit with the Smokescreen. The Paralysis is why Body Slam is so crucial to the run, and it proves its usefulness on the next turn where we miss, but Quilava can't attack us because it's paralyzed. One turn later and one more Body Slam takes down Quilava. Silver's last Pokemon is his Magnemite, who we try to hit with Body Slam but miss while Magnemite hits us with Thunder Wave. On the next turn, Magnemite hits us with Supersonic, but we manage to get through both the Paralysis and the Confusion to land a Body Slam, paralyzing the Magnemite. On the next turn, we're faster than Magnemite again due to it also being paralyzed, meaning that we can fight through both our Afflictions to land one last Body Slam and beat Silver. After Silver sulks off, we have a very brief encounter with the legendary beasts and introduce ourselves to Eugene. We then head over to challenge Morty to a battle for our next gym badge. Morty leads with Ghastly, which we use Swords Dance on while it uses Mean Look against us. On the next turn, we hit it with Razor Leaf for a one-shot. Gengar is up next, which we also hit with Razor Leaf for a huge chunk of health, making it eat a Citrus Berry before it hits us with a Shadow Ball. The turn after that, we use Razor Leaf again and take it down. Next up is Haunter, who we try to hit with Razor Leaf but miss while it hits us with Hypnosis. We spend the next turn asleep and get hit with Dream Eater, and the same happens on the turn after that. We then wake up and land Razor Leaf, one-shotting the Haunter. Morty's last Pokemon is his second Haunter, which we hit with Razor Leaf for a one-shot, defeating Morty at last. On our way over to Olivine City, we have a quick scare from Entei, but unfortunately all we've got is a Great Ball, which it breaks out of before running away. We get to Olivine, but we're then sent to Cyanwood to get some medicine. While we're at Cyanwood, we have a run-in with Suicune and Eugene, the latter challenging us to a battle. Eugene leads with Drowsy, who we one-shot with Razor Leaf. Up next is Electrode, which outspeeds us with Sonic Boom, but we answer with a crit Razor Leaf for a one-shot. Eugene's last Pokemon is Haunter, which we hit with Razor Leaf for another critical hit one-shot, defeating Eugene. Our next challenge in Cyanwood is Chuck, who we decided to challenge before heading back to Olivine. Chuck leads with Primeape, which we Body Slam for about half health while it uses Double Team. On the following turn, we land another Body Slam and knock it out. Chuck's last Pokemon is his Poliwrath, which we Razor Leaf for a lot less than I was expecting. Poliwrath eats a Citrus Berry and then hits us with Surf. On the next turn, it goes for a Focus Punch, but we land another Razor Leaf and knock it out, earning our 5th gym badge. We head back to Olivine to deliver the medicine to Jasmine and Amphi, then we head over to the gym and challenge Jasmine to a battle. Jasmine was the first gym leader that really gave us trouble. Her Magnemites love to use Thunder Wave and Supersonic. During this attempt, we start with Swords Dance before getting hit with Thunder Wave. On the next turn, Magnemite uses Thunderbolt, and we're paralyzed, so we can't do anything. We're then hit with another Thunderbolt, and this time we're able to use Swords Dance. Thankfully, Magnemite continues to use Thunderbolt, meaning that we can use Razor Leaf on the following turn for a one-shot. Jasmine then sends out her second Magnemite, who hits us with Sonic Boom, but we use Synthesis to heal up a ton. Magnemite misses Sonic Boom on the next turn, and we again use Synthesis for full health. On the next turn, Magnemite misses Sonic Boom again, but we also miss with Razor Leaf. On the turn after, Magnemite misses Supersonic, but this time we hit Razor Leaf for a one-shot. Jasmine's last Pokemon is her Steelix, who screeches us while we use Body Slam. On the next turn, Steelix uses Sandstorm, while we hit another Body Slam, this time getting a Paralyze. The turn after, we outspeed since we're both paralyzed, and we land a Razor Leaf and fall short of knocking it out. Thankfully, Steelix uses Screech, and on the following turn, we land another Razor Leaf to take it down. With 6 gym badges in our possession, we head over to Battle Price, but first we've got to catch the red Gyarados. Can't play these games without catching this beauty. Since we caught the red Gyarados, we're then roped into a whole situation with Lance, and then we end up battling against Petrol of Team Rocket. Petrol leads with Zubat, who we one-shot with Body Slam. Up next is Coughing, who we also one-shot with Body Slam. Petrol's last Pokemon is his Raticate, which also falls victim to Body Slam. After beating up Petrol, we find ourselves in yet another battle against a Team Rocket operative, this time being Ariana. Thankfully, Lance is here to help us out. Ariana leads with Arbok, and her Grunt leads with Drowsy, both of which we Razor Leaf, knocking out the Drowsy with a crit while Dragonite flies, dodging Arbok's Glare. We then Body Slam Arbok and knock it out, while Dragonite one-shots the Grimer with Fly. Ariana then sends out Murkrow, which we take down with a single Body Slam. Dragonite flies again before Ariana sends out Gloom, who we Body Slam first, followed by the Fly from Dragonite to take it down. Finally, we're able to challenge Price to the battle we came here for. Price leads with Seal, who we one-shot with Razor Leaf. Price then sends out his Dugong, whom we also one-shot with Razor Leaf. Price's last Pokemon is Piloswine, which we hit with Razor Leaf for almost the entire health bar. Piloswine eats its Citrus Berry and then uses Hail, but on the next turn we take it down with another Razor Leaf. Team Rocket then decides to take over the radio tower in Goldenrod, so we've got to backtrack and deal with that. The first Rocket we've got to face off with is Petrol, who leads with Coughing. We start with Swords Dance while it uses Smokescreen, but on the next turn we land Body Slam and one-shot it. Petrol then sends out his second Coughing, which we also one-shot with Body Slam. After Coughing is yet another Coughing, who also falls to Body Slam. This time Petrol switches things up with a Wheezing, but that doesn't phase us and we one-shot that too. Petrol then reveals his fourth Coughing, who again falls to a single Body Slam. Last up is Petrol's fifth Coughing, who, you guessed it, is one-shot by Body Slam. After beating Petrol, we then head over to the Goldenrod Tunnel to free up the Radio Tower President, but Silver stops us and challenges us to a battle. Silver leads with Golbat, who we Swords Dance on while it hits us with a crit Air Cutter. On the next turn, we Body Slam for a one-shot. Silver's next Pokemon is his Quilava, which we also one-shot with Body Slam. Following the Quilava is Sneasel, who we surprisingly outspeed and one-shot with a Body Slam as well. Silver then sends out Haunter, who we're able to one-shot with Razor Leaf. Silver's last Pokemon is his Magnemite, which we hit with Body Slam for yet another one-shot. After Silver is dealt with, we're back to battling Team Rocket chumps, this time facing off with Proton again. Proton leads with Golbat, who we Swords Dance on while it hits us with Confuse Ray. On the following turn, we hit Body Slam through the confusion, knocking out Golbat. Proton's last Pokemon is Weezing, but when we go to attack, we hit ourselves while Weezing uses Smokescreen. On the next turn, though, we're able to pull through the confusion and land a Body Slam for the one-shot. Ariana again stands in our way, and she leads with an Arbok. Arbok lowers our attack immediately with Intimidate, so we use Swords Dance to boost it back up while it hits us with Crunch, lowering our defense. We Body Slam on the next turn to one-shot the Arbok. Ariana then sends out Murkrow, who we also take out with a single Body Slam. Ariana's last Pokemon is Vileplume, who is yet another one-shot with Body Slam. The last Team Rocket operative that we've got to take out is Archer, who waits for us at the top of the radio tower. Archer leads with Houndour, who we use Swords Dance on and tank a Fire Fang. We then use another Swords Dance while Houndour again hits us with Fire Fang, so on the next turn, we hit it with a Body Slam for a one-shot. Archer's next Pokemon is Coughing, who is yet another one-shot with a crit Body Slam. Archer's last Pokemon is his Houndoom, who we're also able to one-shot with Body Slam. With Team Rocket beaten back into hiding, we're back on our gym challenge. Claire is our next opponent, who leads with Gyarados. Gyarados lowers our attack, so we use Swords Dance while it hits us with Dragon Rage. We use another Swords Dance on the next turn while Gyarados again uses Dragon Rage. We go for one last Swords Dance while Gyarados again uses Dragon Rage, and then we finally answer with a Body Slam for a one-shot. Claire then sends out her first Dragonair, who is another one-shot with Body Slam. Kingdra is sent out next, who is yet another one-shot thanks to Body Slam. Claire's last Pokemon is her second Dragonair, which is yet another one-shot with Body Slam. So, when I was planning this run out, I had no idea that I would be including the Kimono Girls of all trainers within the video. I was completely unprepared for how difficult this short gauntlet was for Chikorita. In short, Umbreon kept confusing us, and by the time we took it down, we were within one-shot range of Espeon, who we also could not take out with Body Slam or Razor Leaf. If we hit Espeon with Body Slam and paralyzed it, we'd be synchronized paralyzed, meaning that Flareon could then outspeed us and take us down. We actually had to grind a fair bit for this fight, and I definitely didn't expect that, so props to the Kimono Girls for being one of the harder things in this challenge. After finally besting the Kimono Girls, we make our way down to Lugia's den, where the Kimono Girls summon Lugia. We catch it real quick, and then we're back on our way. Next stop, Victory Road. We get through Victory Road without issue, but just as we're about to get to the League, Silver stops us and challenges us to a battle. Silver leads with Sneasel, who we have to one-shot early with Body Slam before it slows us down with Icy Wind. Golbat is Silver's next Pokemon, who we also Body Slam for a huge amount of damage and paralyze it, also getting a Paralyze on the same turn. One more Body Slam takes down Golbat, meaning that Silver sends out his Typhlosion. We use a Body Slam and hope for the best, and thankfully we get a Paralyze and we're able to tank a Lava Plume. On the following turn, we use another Body Slam and take it down. Silver then sends out Haunter, who we use Synthesis against while it hits us with Shadow Ball, lowering our defense. We then use Razor Leaf and do a huge chunk while Haunter uses Mean Look, and then we take it down with another Razor Leaf. Silver then sends out Kadabra, who we're able to one-shot with Body Slam. Silver's last Pokemon is his Magneton, which we hit with Razor Leaf for about a third health while it uses Thunder Wave against us. Magneton then uses Magnet Bomb for minimal damage, and we're paralyzed. Magneton then uses Magnet Bomb again, and we're able to hit with Body Slam, paralyzing the Magneton. And thankfully, on the next turn, we're faster again and able to power through the Paralyze to land another Body Slam. After dealing with Silver, we do a bit more grinding before we're finally ready to take on the Elite Four, starting with Will. Will leads with his first Xatu, who we use Swords Dance on before it nopes out with U-Turn, bringing out Jinx. We hit Jinx with a Razor Leaf and one-shot it, bringing back out the Xatu, who we hit with Razor Leaf for a huge amount of damage before Xatu nopes out again. Will then sends out his second Xatu, who we also hit with Razor Leaf, proccing it to eat its Citrus Berry before it hits us with Aerial Ace. On the next turn, we hit it with another Razor Leaf and take it down. Next up is the Cowardly Xatu, who Will heals before we hit it with a Razor Leaf, this time getting a crit and one-shotting it. Will then sends out his Exeggutor, who we decide to use Synthesis on knowing it can't hurt us too bad, but then it hits us with a Psychic from more than half health, scaring me into using Razor Leaf. Exeggutor then uses Reflect, but it doesn't matter much since we take it out on the next turn with another Razor Leaf. Following the Exeggutor is Will's last Pokemon, Slowbro, who we hit with Razor Leaf and just barely failed to knock out while it uses Amnesia. Will then heals Slowbro, but we hit another Razor Leaf, taking it back down to where it was. On the next turn, one more Razor Leaf takes it down. The second of the Elite Four is Koga, who leads with Ariados. We use Swords Dance on our first turn while Ariados uses Spiderweb. On the next turn, we hit Ariados with Body Slam for a one-shot. Venomoth follows the Ariados, who we also one-shot with Body Slam. Next up is Muck, who we're also surprisingly able to one-shot with Body Slam. Koga then sends out his Crobat, who we outspeed and one-shot with another Body Slam. Koga's last Pokemon is his Forretress, the tankiest boy. We hit it with Body Slam for about half health and get a Paralyze, but we need to preserve power on Body Slam for later on, so we start going for Razor Leaves, one of which Forretress protects against. We then use Swords Dance to raise our attack twice, and then finish off Forretress with a superpowered crit Razor Leaf. Bruno is the third of the Elite Four, who I'm not exactly worried about. Bruno leads with Hitmontop, who we use Swords Dance against while it tries to counter. The same thing happens on the next turn, and then on the turn after that, Hitmontop uses Dig while we wait for an opportunity to attack. Hitmontop then uses Quick Attack to do a little damage, but we hit it back with Razor Leaf and one-shot. Hitmonlee is up next, who we hit with Razor Leaf for another one-shot. Following the Hitmonlee is Hitmonchan, who is also yet another easy one-shot with Razor Leaf. Machamp is up next, who also quickly falls to our Razor Leaf. Bruno's last Pokemon is his Onix, who we're able to knock out with one more Razor Leaf. The last of the Elite Four is Karen, a Dark-type specialist. Karen leads with her Umbreon, who we set up on with Swords Dance while it uses Double Team. On the next turn, we again use Swords Dance while Umbreon uses Payback for minimal damage. One more turn, one more Swords Dance, and Double Team. Finally, we're ready to fight, so we hit Umbreon with a Body Slam for a one-shot. Next up is Murkrow, which we also hit with Body Slam for a one-shot. Karen then sends out her Houndoom, which is yet another one-shot with Body Slam. Karen then stops using Dark types and sends out her Vileplume, who we're also able to take down with Body Slam. Karen's last Pokemon is her Gengar, which thankfully we're able to take down with a crit Razor Leaf. Now that we've beaten the Elite Four, we've got to fight Lance, the champion of the Indigo League. Lance leads with his Gyarados, which gave us a bit of trouble for a long time. Gyarados lowers our attack, so we lead off with Swords Dance while it hits us with Ice Fang. On the next turn, we Swords Dance again while Gyarados again uses Ice Fang. We then decide to risk using another Swords Dance, and thankfully we're able to tank Ice Fang with 8 HP remaining. We then use Synthesis to restore our health while Gyarados uses Waterfall for minimal damage. We use another Swords Dance to max out our attack while Gyarados again hits us with Ice Fang, lowering us down to 12 HP. We Synthesis again for more health while Gyarados uses Dragon Pulse. We then Synthesis once more, getting close to full health and then tanking another Ice Fang. Finally, we're ready to fight and go for a Body Slam, one-shotting Gyarados. Up next is Lance's Charizard, who we're able to one-shot with Body Slam. Following the Charizard is Lance's first Dragonite, who we can also thankfully one-shot with Body Slam. Following the Dragonite is Aerodactyl, who we hit with Body Slam for another one-shot. After Aerodactyl is another Dragonite, which is yet another one-shot thanks to Body Slam. Lance's last Pokemon is his third Dragonite, but we're out of Body Slam, so we have to go for a Razor Leaf, doing roughly half health while we get hit with Thunder Wave. Dragonite then outspeeds us with Dragon Rush, lowering us down to 23 HP, but we hit back with a Razor Leaf, almost knocking out the Dragonite. Lance then full restores and we go for another Razor Leaf, but we actually get a crit this time in one shot for the win. So, that's it, right? We beat Lance, we're the new champions of the Indigo League, that's the end of the game? Well, you'd be right for some of the future Heart Gold and Soul Silver challenges, as beating Lance is technically beating the game, but for this run in particular, we're only halfway through the game. Beating Lance took us 23 hours and 39 minutes, but we're not done yet. Oh no. After beating Lance, a whole other region unlocks, and there's one other person that we need to beat in order for me to feel wholly satisfied with proving Chikorita is not the worst starter ever and is actually pretty good. Now that the first credits are over, it's time to get something that we prepared for way earlier in the run. Upon arriving in Kanto, our first objective is getting to the Celadon Game Corner to purchase the TM for Double Team, which will be vital to the run later. I then decided that we should unlock all of the cities in Kanto before we do anything else, but in order to do that, we need to battle Snorlax. I let my chat decide whether or not we catch the Snorlax or not, and they decided to catch. This decision ended up being a run saver, as I had forgotten that Snorlax held leftovers, which is something absolutely necessary for the final battle. We end off our city's tour by stopping at Cinnabar Island and having a quick chat with Blue, who encourages us to challenge all of the Kanto gyms. We do just that and head over to Pewter City and challenge Brock to a battle. Brock leads with his Graveler, which we one-shot with Razor Leaf. After Graveler, Brock sends out his Onix, who we also one-shot with Razor Leaf. Following Onix is Kabutops, who is yet another one-shot thanks to Razor Leaf. Omastar follows the Kabutops, who protects against our first Razor Leaf, but falls to the second. Brock's last Pokemon is his Rhyhorn, who we're able to take out with a single Razor Leaf. Normally, I would fly to Cerulean to challenge Misty, but there's actually a rival battle with Silver in Mount Moon that we need to address first. Silver leads with his Sneasel, who we use Swords Dance on before it uses Feint Attack. On the following turn, we use another Body Slam while Sneasel again uses Feint Attack. Finally, we're ready to fight, one-shotting Sneasel with a Body Slam. Up next is Golbat, who we also one-shot with Body Slam. Silver's next Pokemon is his Typhlosion, which we're also luckily able to one-shot with a crit Body Slam. Following the Typhlosion is Alakazam, who we also take down with a single Body Slam. Silver then sends out his Gengar, who we're able to one-shot with Razor Leaf, and Silver's last Pokemon is his Magneton, who we thankfully one-shot with Body Slam before it uses Thunder Wave and Supersonic Hacks. Our next battle is against Misty, who leads with her Golduck. We then proceed to easily one-shot the Golduck with a single Razor Leaf. Misty then sends out her Lapras, who we hit with Razor Leaf for a huge amount of damage, but unfortunately we don't knock it out and we're hit with Ice Beam for a ton of our health. Misty then heals her Lapras, so we hit it with 2 more Razor Leaf to take it down. Misty then sends out her Starmie, which we're able to one-shot with Razor Leaf. Misty's last Pokemon is her Quagsire, and considering that Quagsire is a Water Ground type, Razor Leaf absolutely obliterates Misty's final Pokemon. We then head down to Vermilion City and challenge Surge to a battle. Surge leads with Raichu, who we Body Slam and get the Paralyze on before it uses Thunder Wave against us. Surge then uses a full restore and we use Swords Dance to buff our attack stat. Raichu then begins using double teams and shockwaves, meaning that we miss a lot of our attacks between the dodges and the paralyzes, but eventually we're able to finally land a Body Slam to one-shot Raichu at last. Surge then throws out his first Electrode, who screeches us while we're paralyzed. Electrode then uses double team and we miss our Body Slam. However, we both miss our next attacks, and then Electrode double teams, meaning we miss again. Electrode then screeches and we miss again. Electrode continues to spam Double Team, but we're finally able to land a Body Slam, ending our torment. Up next is Electabuzz, who uses Light Screen while we're paralyzed, then using Quick Attack while we hit a Body Slam, one-shotting it with a crit. Surge then sends out his Magneton, who uses Mirror Shot against us for minimal damage, but we're able to hit back with Body Slam for a one-shot. Surge's last Pokemon is his second Electrode, who opens by using Double Team while we're paralyzed. Electrode uses Double Team again, but this time we're able to hit our Body Slam before things get too silly, finally beating Surge. Erica is the next gym leader we decide to fight, who leads with her Jumpluff. We use Sword Stance on Jumpluff before it nopes out with a U-turn, bringing out Victory Bell. We then use Body Slam, one-shotting the Victory Bell. Jumpluff is sent out again, but this time we crush it with another Body Slam. Blossom follows the Jumpluff, who also falls to Body Slam. Erica's last Pokemon is her Tangela, who we also obliterate with Body Slam. Our fifth gym challenge in Kanto is with Janine, who leads with Crobat. We start off with the Sword Stance while Crobat uses Wing Attack. We then Sword Stance again while Crobat misses Supersonic, so on the next turn we Body Slam it for a knockout. Weezing is sent out next, who we also knock out with a Body Slam. Janine sends out her first Ariados next, which is also one-shot by Body Slam. Janine's second Ariados is sent out next, who falls just like the first. Janine's last Pokemon is her Venomoth, who also falls just like the rest of Janine's team. Sabrina is our sixth gym to take on, who leads with Espeon. We use Sword Stance while Espeon uses Calm Mind, and on the next turn we hit Espeon with Body Slam to knock it out. Sabrina then sends out her Mr. Mime, which also falls to Body Slam. Sabrina's last Pokemon is Alakazam, who we also one-shot with Body Slam. I don't know why Sabrina only has 3 Pokemon, but whatever. Blaine is the 7th gym leader we challenge, and he proved to be difficult. Blaine leads with Macargo, who we Sword Stance against while it blasts us with Overheat, almost one-shotting us, and then it resets its stats with the White Herb. We use Synthesis, and Macargo thankfully uses Smog for minimal damage, meaning we can Synthesis again for full health, meaning that Macargo's next Overheat can't knock us out. We then Synthesis again, and Macargo hits us with Rock Slide. We take a chance and use Sword Stance, letting Macargo hit us with Overheat again, which drops us all the way down to 1 HP. We then Synthesis, trying to stall out Macargo's special attack, falling from Overheat. We again use Synthesis while Macargo uses Smog, and then Sword Stance on the next turn while getting hit with Overheat again. We then use one more Synthesis while Macargo hits us with a pitiful Overheat, and then finally we hit Macargo with a Body Slam to one-shot it. Blaine then sends out Magmar, who we're able to one-shot with Body Slam, but sadly we're burned by Flame Body, meaning that our attack is now lowered. Blaine's last Pokemon is his Rapidash, who we thankfully outspeed in one-shot with another Body Slam. Our last gym challenge against Blue required a lot of attempts and a lot of grinding. Blue leads with Exeggutor, which we use Sword Stance against while it uses Trick Room. On the next turn, it tries to Hypnosis us, but it misses, so we're able to use Sword Stance again. Exeggutor goes for another Hypnosis, and sadly this time it hits, then it hits us with a Psychic on the next turn while we're asleep. Exeggutor then uses Psychic again, and thankfully we wake up and use Sword Stance right when Trick Room fades, meaning we can Synthesis before Exeggutor can hit us with another Psychic. We then use Body Slam, one-shotting the Exeggutor before it can use Trick Room again. Blue then sends out his Arcanine, which lowers our attack, but we one-shot it with Body Slam anyways. Blue's next Pokemon is his Pidgeot, which also thankfully falls to 1 Body Slam. Following the Pidgeot is Gyarados, who also lowers our attack, so this time we use Synthesis for more health and tank an Ice Fang, but sadly we're frozen. We spend the next turn frozen while Gyarados uses Dragon Dance, but then we thaw out and land a Body Slam, one-shotting the Gyarados. Rhydon is up next, who we one-shot with Razor Leaf, and then Blue sends out his last Pokemon, Machamp, which we also one-shot with Body Slam. We are now at the last fight of the game, the true ending. This fight took many attempts, but with all of our planning, we finally got a run. Red leads with his Pikachu, which we speed tie thanks to our nature and our EV training. Pikachu uses Iron Tail and misses while we use Double Team, which replaced Synthesis. The hail hits, but we've got the leftovers to mitigate that damage. We then hit Pikachu with Body Slam, hoping for a Paralyze, which we thankfully get while Pikachu misses another Iron Tail. Red then heals Pikachu, and we use Sword Stance, and on the next turn, Pikachu outspeeds us in the speed tie, and we're hit with Iron Tail for more than half of our health while we use Double Team. We then use Sword Stance while Pikachu misses Volt Tackle, and then on the next turn, Pikachu misses Iron Tail, and we finally one-shot the Pikachu with Body Slam. Red sends out his Charizard next, who we hit with Body Slam and get the Paralyze while it misses Dragon Pulse. On the next turn, we use Swords Dance for more attack boost while Charizard misses Air Slash. We then land a Body Slam and take down the Charizard. Following Charizard is Lapras, who we one-shot with Razor Leaf. Up next is Venusaur, who we use Double Team against while it misses Sludge Bomb. On the next turn, we use Body Slam, and surprisingly, we're able to one-shot Venusaur as well. Red's next Pokemon is his Snorlax, who we get extremely lucky with and crit with Razor Leaf for one-shot. Red's last Pokemon is his Blastoise, who we also one-shot with a Razor Leaf. When I started this run, I set out with the mindset that I would push Chikorita as hard as I possibly could to ensure that it could prove itself even against the likes of Red. I think this video proves that Chikorita is definitely not the worst starter to have ever existed, which I am very proud to say. Beanie was capable of handling everything that it went up against, all on its own, and despite the insane adversity from the likes of Red, Blue, and Blaine, we were able to overcome with strategies that allowed us to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. The final time for this run was 27 hours and 43 minutes, which was surprisingly much faster than I had anticipated. I also wanted to say that I am so proud of this challenge and I plan on doing more like it in the future. I'm also really proud of how well the channel has been doing lately, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that has been so supportive of my content. Lastly, I also wanted to let you all know that I stream this run over on my Twitch, which I plan on doing weekly. Also, if you like this video, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe, as it would help me out a lot. If you'd like, feel free to leave a comment to let me know how you feel about the video, since I love seeing what you guys think about my content. If you're interested in coming and hanging out, feel free to follow the link below to either my Twitch, my Discord, or my Twitter, if Twitter is still around when you're watching this video. This has been Shro, and thank you for watching.